Hello everybody, welcome back to another video where today, because I finished looking at the unused content for classic Angry Birds games, those were from the years 2009 to 2014, I'll be looking at the unused content of Plants vs. Zombies, and do most of the games there. The only games I will not cover is the discontinued games, the Chinese games, and PvZ3. I will not be looking at the prototype at all, because other people have already covered it, and there's so much unused content that it could be its own video. Anyways, let's begin with the unused content of Plants vs. Zombies. First off, there is an extended animation for the Gravebusters planting animation with just an extra bounce. Next are animations of Squash transitioning from his looking pose to his idle pose. Next is an unused non-active version of Magnet Shroom active idle animation. Next, there's an extended version of Magnet Shroom stealing an object from a zombie that they're being a transition going in and out of its idle animation. This version of the animation has it going back to its default pose, which means that there might be a link between the last unused animation and this one. Next is an unused animation for the dancing zombie exiting their pointing pose. And finally, there's an animation of the snorkel zombie opening his mouth to eat a brain in the Zombiquarium minigame. There's a different version of Watery Graves that goes unused. Offsets 117 to 120 go unused. They sound so similar to Offset 103, except it lacks the closing drum and there are a few notes that are different. In I Zombie, there are two zombies that end up going unused and can't be placed down normally, those being Pogo Zombie and the Zomboni. Despite them going unused, they are completely functional and even have their own seed packet. Strangely enough, the Pogo Zombie will not eat the brain at the end and instead just jump over it, while the Zomboni has the front end of its car appear cut off. Finally, the Cabbage Pult may have been planned for iZombie also. Using some hacking, you can get Cabbage Pult back in iZombie, and it just appears like all the other cardboard cutouts of plants, which suggests that it was planned to be an iZombie, but you can never get Cabbage Pult randomly in iZombie. There's an unused 6th level in the game, but there's not much left in it. The only sub-level present in 6-1, which is just a duplicate of 5-9, but with a daytime theme, because the theme the game tries to use is not in the game anymore. All other World 6 levels will just copy 6-1, as the game is just reading from the garbage data. Level 6 was originally going to be a night roof, just like the one that Dr. Zombus is in, but it's the only nighttime roof in the game. In the December 2nd, 2008 prototype, in the level is present with more content that is left over. However, it uses an elevated backyard theme that is crudely drawn from even the earlier point in development. They may have kept this crudely drawn elevated backyard theme to reuse it from the night roof before the idea was just scrapped entirely. Something interesting that is worth noting is that the background graphic for 5-10 is named Background 6 Boss. The day roof background used for level 5 is named background 5.png. While it may just be a quirk in the naming, the unused minigames Unsodded, which I will cover later, background name is background 1 Unsodded.png, whereas the normal background for World 1 is named background 1. This implies that there may have been some background 6.png at one point. This was confirmed in the same prototype that I mentioned earlier. Once again, it depicts a crude mock-up of the elevated backyard theme, and there's a file present named Backyard 6 Background 6 Game Over Mask, which is used as the Game Over screen. It is unknown why Background 6.png and Background 6 Boss.png were made separate. First off is probably the most famous, which is the Disco Zombie change. Originally, the Disco Zombie was based off Michael Jackson in his music video for his song Thriller, but for obvious reasons, PopCap later changed it to the modern-day Disco Zombie, which, to me, kind of looks like Disco Stew from The Simpsons. Also, the backup dancers were based off the backup dancers in Thriller. The description was originally, any resemblance between Dancing Zombie and persons living or dead is purely coincidental. Despite the original Disco Zombie being removed, he is actually still in the files. The Zomboni description was for some reason also changed, from often mistaken for a driving an ice machine. The Zomboni is a completely different life form, more closely related to a space ogre than a zombie. 2. Not to be mistaken for a Zamboni, brand ice resurfacing machine. Zamboni and the image of the ice resurfacing machine are registered trademarks of Frank J. Zamboni and Company, Incorporated. And Zamboni is used with permission. For all your non-zombie related ice resurfacing needs, visit www.zamboni.com. Next up, the adventure button was slightly changed. And finally, the Gotti edition had a Zombatar and an achievement system. Also, the internal project name was Lawn, probably when it was named Lawn of the Dead. And it was that way until version 0.96, where it was changed to Zombotany. Whether or not the name change used during revision is unknown. However, early versions may have used the codename Fish, which is also Insane Aquarium's internal name. These strings of text would have likely showed up during the gameplay and were meant to be shown to the player. First off, we got some Unused Zombie Almanac entries. Dog Walking Zombie, which is the Dog Walking Zombie. Dog Zombie, which is Dog Zombie. And Propeller Zombie, which is Propeller Zombie, which were all featured in the prototype that I will not be covering. Dog Walking Zombie description, Dog Zombie description, Dog Walking Zombie description, Dog Zombie description, Propeller Zombie description, placeholder description text for cut zombies. And then there's some unused advice messages. Advice Scary Potter tutorial. Put more vases on your lawn. Advice Shovel refresh. Your shovel needs time to refresh before digging again. In the final game, the shovel can always be used instantly and never needs to be refreshed. This feature may have been cut earlier on in one of the prototypes because the game that was too hard, so they had to make the game easier. More vases incoming. Streak of 3 vases cleared. These lines were probably used in level 4-5 in Vase Breaker before Crazy Dave's proper dialogue was implemented. Advice I Zombie, plants not real. Do not be alarmed. Plants are not real. This text was probably used in I Zombie puzzles before Crazy Dave's proper instructions were implemented. This is leftovers from the cut squirrel minigame. More squirrel to go. Advice squirrel 1 left count. More squirrel to go. Advice squirrel left count. More squirrels to go. Advice squirrel zombie. Oh no! Find all the squirrels before the zombies make it to your house. Advice fill in walnuts. Fill in all the outlined spaces with walnuts. Seed chooser art walnut warning. Are you sure you want to play this level without walnuts? Which is left over from the cut art challenge walnut minigame. Advice fill in spaces. Fill in all the outlined spaces. Seed chooser art 2 warning. Are you sure you want to play this level without starfruit, umbrella leaf, and walnut seeds? Which is cut from the art challenge sunflower minigame. Unused unlock messages. Unlock survival mode. Survival mode unlocked. Play from the main menu. This suggests that survival mode was once unlocked from a present, like some other game modes. It's not unlocked from a present in the final game, so this text now goes unused. Mysterious Vase. You found a mysterious vase. Now you can play Vase Baker mode. In the final game, unblocking puzzle mode also unlocks I Zombie and Vase Breaker mode. You have defeated the boss zombie. Congratulations, you have most triumphantly fended off the zombie attack. Your lawn is safe for now. This message was used in a pre-Gotti version, but became unused in the Gotti version. But you beat the final boss. The achievement unlocked. The achievements unlocked screen will appear, but this message is not displayed. Do you wish to replay level 3-4? Shown when the demo is complete, as it ends on 3-4. Full version only, full version early only. This item is only available in the full version. Text for features that are only available in the full version. Get full version. Would you like to purchase the full version? Get full version. Maybe later. A prompt asking the player if they would like to purchase the full version of Plants vs. Zombies. Warning. Maybe a placeholder. More seeds? Would you like to be able to plant more kinds of seeds? These lines are probably used to the player to increase the amount of seed slots before crazy days of dialogue was introduced later on. Warning! Another warning, but this time related to the Zombitar feature for some reason. Vase Baker Face Breaker. An unused Vase Breaker level, nice. Limbo Page. Button for the Limbo Page, yeah. Squirrels. Left over from the Cut Squirrel minigame. I Zombie. A duplicate string from the I Zombie title, which indicates that I Zombie may have once been a minigame instead of its own puzzle mode. I Zombie 2. An early name of I Zombie 2. Can you dig it? Gravedigger. Danger, Dark Stormy Night, Air Raid, Bungee Blitz, Art Challenge Walnut, Sunny Day, Unsodded, Big Time, Art Challenge Sunflower, Ice Level, High Gravity, Squirrel, Upsell, and Intro, or names of cut minigames that appear on the Limbo Page. Survival Day Endless, Survival Night Endless, Survival Fog Endless, Survival Roof Endless. These will all be covered later on. Build specific. These strings might have shown up in the corner of the main menu for partner and beta builds. Press partner preview builds. Do not distribute. Beta build, do not distribute. Text displayed to the menu to identify partner and beta builds. There are some debug strings associated. These strings are associated with debugging in the game's development and were likely never meant to show up in the final game. Free planting sheet, which appears to be related to a planting sheet, granting the ability for the player to plant anything, including upgraded plants near anywhere, depending on the level. No cooldown, just like they're cheating in the final game. The string can only be proper loaded on the Steam Gotti release using a memory editor to change the function at one of the strings with one that does nothing. Doing that, however, doesn't activate it. Trying it on other releases makes the game display the string ID. In C%D, F%S, C%D, F%D to %D, F%D to %D, F%D, F%D, %D to %D, okay, invalid level, do number or area sub area, or C number, or area sub area, enter level, which is related to a level selection sheet. Text is partially moved from retail builds or the game's executable. C is challenge, name, F is finished adventure. And debug play, related to hidden button, choosing random season selection, present in game executable. Next up, we got some unused graphics. First off is a sprite for Gravebuster named Facefind, so it may have appeared on Gravebuster's face. Next up is a stage of degradation for the Spikeweed, which is also pretty famous. It never degrades in the final game. Next is a sprite for Seashroom's eyes. This goes unused because in the final game the eyes are part of the final design. Next is an unused eyebrow for Starfruit, which can be seen in Seeing Stars, and that's it. Next is some unused sprites for Coffee Bean's eyelid. Next is an unused sprite for Galling Pea, which has a camo hat, looks a little bit different. Next is an unused exhaust for the cob cannon. There's also an unused potato mine body without shading. There is an unused coffee bean body without brighter lighting than the final. Next up is an earlier version of Flag Zombie's flag that was used in Bloom and Doom's build. There's an early version of Zomboni without the Z. Next is the helmet and the zombie bobsled team, which would have worn it, and it looks pretty good, to be honest. There's a sprite for the Jack-in-the-Box zombie eye twitching, which is used in the Bloom and Doom prototype, where the head sprite is different. And also, there's an unused belt for the Jack-in-the-Box zombie. Next up is a scared-looking bungee zombie, which may have been used when he gets lunged back up by the umbrella leaf. There was an unused helmet that was supposed to be used for the Gargantuar. It may have even been for an early version of the Giga Gargantuar. And in my opinion, it would have made the Giga Gargantuar scarier and also way cooler looking. Gotta be honest, I am sad that this goes unused because the Gargantuar could have been a lot more threatening looking. But also, it looks sick and I love it. I really wish that did not go in again. That's sad. There's an unused variation of the RV Dr. Zombus threw at the plants. And next is an earlier, more organic-looking version of Dr. Zombus's Zomba leg. Next in the Files of the Gotti edition has the baseball player zombie sprites that appeared in the console versions, but since there is no multiplayer in the PC version. Next is an unused hair sprite for a zombie. Next up is an unused zombie base, which would have produced zombies, which only comes out of regular mystery faces in the final game. However, in PZ2, it is used and summons the Gargantuar. Next are 3 different signs. The first one says that says Vase Breaker, which is used in the puzzle section. Next is an early version of the survival that originally was on top of the Brave. And the third sign that says Challenges, which is another version of the minigame option, which was proven in the Bloom and Doom prototype. A store item named PZ Goes Unused. This was used in a free trial that was on PopCap's website and can be found in Crazy Dave's shop. Clicking on it will bring the player to the page where they can buy the full game. Next up is an unused coin that has a brain instead of a zombie head. There's an earlier version of Daytime Lawn, specifically the gates and the shadow in the background. Next up is an earlier version of the diamond, which is seen in the slot machines minigame, but the sprite individually is never seen. There's an unused icon for the Bungie Blitz minigame, which I will cover later. And a file named unused in the Gotti edition are earlier version of the template used in the Zombatar feature. Now I'm going to go rapid fire because the next few are just crude sprites without much description. There's a lily pad, there's a tonut, there's a doom shroom, there's a pea shooter head, there's a cabbage that is launched by Cabbage Bowl, there's a squash, there's a walnut, there's a puff shroom, there's a fume shroom, there's a cactus, and there's an early mock-up of the curses used in Zengar. Alright, now with that out of the way, let's get back on. There's an early version of the More Ways to Play menu, which does not appear at all in the PC version, nor does it feature in the Quick Play mode. Next, there is a screenshot of an unused shop page, which has all the upgraded plants there. Next, there is some stuff in the Insane Aquarium Deluxe. Next, there is a leftover sprite named the Battle Tank button. There are some leftover sprites named Checked. Leftover from Alphas of the Breeder, which is actually the hungry version instead of the normal ones. Next, there are some sprites of Vert, which is an unlockable pet from Insane Aquarium Deluxe. In the final game, its only appearance of the character from Insane Aquarium Deluxe is Stinky the Snail in the Zen Garden. Lastly, for the unused sprites, or sprites that have some parts of them obscured. The sprites of the cattail's head cannot be fully seen due to the hat, the umbrella leaves body without the leaves. There is some skin on Crazy Dave's legs sprite, but they cannot be seen by normal means. It can be seen for a few frames though, when he is taken by the bungee, but that is extremely hard to see, because it only lasts a few frames. The Zomboni has a bullet under the hat. The Gatling P has a full head under the helmet. The Imitator's full body without the hat he wears. The Gargantuar sprites has a severed area around the head, which suggests that the Gargantuar's head might have fallen off, just like the normal zombies. But while this never happens in the game, the sequel does reuse this idea. There is also the Zombot, also has some obscured part that you can't really see actually in game. And Pumpkin also has some unused stages, just like the Spikeweed. So, anyways, let's move on to the next side. There's a hidden menu named the Limbo Page that
Blabby wobble. Blabby wobble. Blabby